The Toronto Maple Leafs are looking to make some major upgrades to their roster, and a couple of recent reports suggest a few players that the Leafs are going to be targeting, with one in particular being very, very interesting. So you're going to want to stick around for that on this episode of Leafs Digest. And we'll also discuss how those players could shape up in potential trade packages, as well as the Leafs lineup going forward. So you're going to want to stay tuned for all this and much more. We have a lot to get into today. The Leafs are obviously coming off of a very, very big win against the Dallas Stars, but that does not mean that rumors have stopped. The Leafs are still looking to upgrade their team, and a couple of reports highlight an interesting couple of players that they could be targeting. So let's just get right into it. This was from a recent report, and it highlights that Patrick Kane is coming back soon. Now, we all know that Patrick Kane undergo major surgery this offseason and is currently an unrestricted free agent. But this report suggests that the Leafs could be targeting the former superstar. So Patrick Kane has been rehabbing his hip and is chomping at the bit to get back into the NHL. Depending on how creative he's willing to work his contract and for how many seasons, there's going to be a number of different teams interested. Yes, the Maple Leafs will at least inquire to see how much money he wants and if it's on a 1, 2, or 3 year deal. And Kane turns 35 years old in about a month, so we'll be curious to see what kind of contract he signs. Now, this is interesting. So, according to this report, the Leafs are going to be at least one of many teams interested in acquiring Patrick Kane or signing Patrick Kane. And then the question that comes up is if the Leafs will be willing to outbid other teams, whether it's a 1 year deal, a 2 year deal, or a 3 year deal. I'm suspecting maybe he gets a 1, maybe a 2 year deal with incentives or something like that, because Patrick Kane used to be an absolute stud. He's at the later part of his career. He's coming off major surgery. The New York Rangers did not re-sign him after acquiring him from the Blackhawks. So it's a very, very interesting player and a very, very polarizing name, because he used to be one of the best players in the NHL. He's been in the season for almost 15 years now. He's almost won every award you can think of. But he had a decent season even last year. In 73 games, he still put up 57 points. Like, he can still play. You go back to 2021, he had 92 points with the Chicago Blackhawks, where he played most of his career. So he's a guy that can definitely still make an impact for this team. The question is how much that surgery and the injury will impact him going forward, because who knows how much money he's going to, want to get. It could be tons, it could be little. How many years is another big thing here, but he can still play. He's a very, very good playmaker. We all know this. He's a very, very solid goal scorer. He put up 66 assists in 2021. He's a solid goal scorer, a very, very good playmaker, like I said, but his defense is not really where it needs to be. And the Leafs need defense. Obviously, Patrick Kane, if you're going to acquire Patrick Kane, you're not doing so to get a defensive-minded player, or even, obviously, you're not upgrading any necessarily defense. But he's a guy that could certainly help you out on a few different levels, especially when it comes to playmaking and helping out the other top 6 guys, depending where he slots into the lineup here. And like I said, the concerning thing is that the Rangers didn't sign him because of his surgery, and he's now just getting back to skating and training, but he fits perfectly on teams. He's a scoring wing, he's a power play specialist, and a guy who could bring Stanley Cup experience to this Leafs team, which is something that we, definitely need. And we have Mitch Marner, who's a very, very solid defensive wing in this league, and Matthews' defense has been slowly improving and is pretty underrated. So bringing a guy like Patrick Kane, who has this, experience winning a Stanley Cup, and just a veteran presence for this team, alongside all the skills that he gets, putting the intangible stuff aside, the tangible skills, solid goal scorer, very, very good playmaker. Defense isn't really there. Would be very, very good on a power play that has already been superb to start the season. It makes a lot of sense and could very, very well fit on this team. And let's be honest, the numbers speak for themselves. Now, you can think about who you would need to drop, within the lineup if you acquire Patrick Kane. You can imagine some potential lineups, maybe Patrick Kane, Matthews, Marner on the first line, Bertuzzi, Tavares, Nylander on the second line, Nyes, Domi, Yarncroc on the third line, and then Gregor Camp and Reeves on the fourth line. That's just a potential one I threw out there. There's a couple of different ways you can mix this up. Maybe you don't put Kane on the first line, you put him on the second line, third line, wherever you want to put him, he'll produce, but he could very, very well help the already existing strong power play while also providing that veteran leadership for those guys and help out, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, everyone get going even more. And I think you can afford to have a little bit, especially where you have, Mitch Marner is a very, very good defensive forward, and you have Austin Matthews who's slowly improving and is a solid defensive center. It could be a very, very helpful addition to this team. So let me know what your thoughts are on that. I thought it was a very interesting report that the Leafs are going to be targeting him. And let me know if you think you would want Patrick Kane and what number or years you would want him at. Let's move on now to another guy, because we're at a very, very interesting point in the season. It's very, very early. All this is speculation. but this is from another recent report saying before trade leaving and the Leafs moved Sam Lafferty to the Vancouver Canucks, they did hold trades discussions with the Edmonton Oilers about Vincent Desharnais. And the 27-year-old right-handed defenseman is 6'6" and plays with an edge. Two things, obviously, we know True Living absolutely loves. He has unfortunately not recorded a point and has some significant time-killing penalties, and he is a late bloomer. So there's a few issues and there's a few good things about him. I'm curious to see what you all think about this acquire. So if we're able to pick him up, one of the key things about him is that, he only has 5 points in about 40 games in his NHL career. He is a very, very, big body. He's 6'6". He's currently playing the penalty kill for the Oilers. And the only issue with this is that he has very, very limited experience, and he's 29 years old, if I'm not mistaken. However, if you're able to acquire a guy like this, and it's already been shown that the Leafs are, trying to acquire defensemen. We've made videos about this in the past, and just trying to acquire new players in general. I don't think the cost would be too much from the Edmonton Oilers. The question is if the Oilers want to sell low to a degree. It's not like it's a prospect. He's, 29 years old. He's been in the league now for about half a season if you combine both games. But he's a very, very interesting guy that could definitely fit what the Leafs want. The question is he going to move the needle enough to, warrant the Leafs going out and making this trade? Because like this report suggests, obviously, the Leafs moved Sam Lafferty to the Canucks. They held previous discussions with him. So, okay, he's 27 years old, not 29. There you go. But they held previous discussions with him, and he is a 6'6" defenseman. He would be good on the PK. We need defensemen if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs. The thing is, again, would the acquisition cost warrant what he's going to provide to the team, which is, a defensive-minded defenseman, doesn't provide much on the offensive end throughout his short career, has not scored a goal at the NHL level, is 27 years old, not 29, but he's 27 years old, so he's a bit of a late, bloomer, as this article suggests, but he still plays very, very solid, doing what he does in his role. And, according to this article, clearly something caught Brad Treliving's eye when, going through the different trade markets. So it's a very, very interesting guy to keep on your radar there to see if Treliving goes back and circles that back around, whether it be at the deadline, whether it be over the next couple weeks, to see if a guy like him could be an asset going for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And maybe, they give up a late pick for him, whether they give up a player for him, a prospect, who knows what the acquisition cost would be. I wouldn't suspect it's too high, but it's a very interesting guy to monitor going forward. But I'm curious to see which of these two players you all would, prefer. Would you want to see them upgrade defense? Would you want to see them, upgrade both of it? Obviously, we need defensive upgrades first and foremost, but it's hard to pass up a guy like Patrick Kane, especially when you don't have to give up assets. You have to give up money, of course, but you don't have to give up, obviously, it won't be a trade since he's an unrestricted free agent since the Rangers didn't re-sign him. But that'll wrap up the video. Let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are on these players. I named specifically 2, and who you think the Leafs should target, and if you think the Leafs will get any of them. But thank you guys for watching. Your support has been unbelievable. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. Thank you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.